A little over a week ago, somewhere in the middle of the first global event, I made a video that talked about the global event leaderboards, the masks that are tied to the leaderboards as a reward for being in the top tiers, and also how the system that the developers currently had in place was very open to cheats and exploits and that kind of stuff. I, of course, wasn't the only one who complained about it. A lot of people were pretty vocal about this, and as a result, we have been heard, guys, and our complaints have been taken very seriously. Not only was there an immediate change to the leaderboards, increasing the percentage amount of players that would be receiving a mask to compensate for the amount of cheese, but the developers have also said on last week's State of the Game that they are planning to delay the next global event until they have found a proper fix for the leaderboard scoring system. And as much as I respect them willing to delay the content in order to polish it up a bit more, I think that for this instance, only for this instance, it is actually the wrong move to delay it. I tweeted something about this the same day that it was announced, that I would rather have a global event without the leaderboards and potentially without the masks tied to that leaderboard scoring, than having to wait another 3 or 4 weeks on top of the 3 weeks of downtime that we already have in between global events. But of course, a tweet that can only say so much, it can only hold up to 140 characters, and I really do want to touch upon this topic a bit more, because the instant argument against releasing a global event without leaderboards and without those new masks would be that the players would rather have a more polished experience and wait a little bit longer for that than have something that is half finished. And I can definitely see that point, and I'll get back to that in just a moment. But before I do, I just quickly want to ask the question of how much do people think it is that the leaderboard actually adds to the global event experience. I myself, I'm a player with a pretty competitive mindset, and I would lie if I said that I didn't care about the leaderboards at all. My interest for it went away after I realized that it could be cheesed, but had it worked in a way where players would not be able to cheese it, yeah, it would have been a reason for me to grind just that little bit extra a day. However, if I look at the bigger picture, the leaderboards and the masks, those aren't the reasons that I, and I think many other players, log on a daily basis during the global event. I think what is far more important for players is the ability to get some new gear, the classified gear sets, but also the ability to do some new things, complete the new accommodations tied to the global events, and the fact that we can play the game with some of those new modifiers. You know, making the game just a little bit different from the usual stuff and keeping it a little bit fresh. Sure, the leaderboards, they are a nice addition for those wanting a bit more. But let's be honest here, the content drought since patch 1.6 dropped, it has been a real thing, and with 1.7, I feel that, at least for me personally, the game has finally picked up some momentum again. I actually want to log on a daily basis, grind out a few things, experiment with some new builds, you know, the classified gear sets, the ninja bike. But that stuff, it isn't going to last forever. Having a week-long event every single month, it is a good way to keep me coming back to the game, and I think that this applies even more to the more casual audience. If you now take that monthly event away just because of one leaderboard feature that was not working as intended, that a lot of people don't even care about that much, I think that that's a big mistake. According to what was said on the State of the Game, it would take about 3 extra weeks to get the leaderboards to work. This would of course be a rough guess that they made. It might be 2 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, but let's take the 3 weeks as a given for now. If it's going to take 3 extra weeks on top of the time we already have to wait for the next global event to drop, then we might as well run the second global event without the leaderboard and then have the leaderboard come back in when the third global event drops. Because guess what? With this delay, we're gonna have to wait for about 7 weeks for the leaderboards feature to be implemented. But the third global event, that's also about 7 weeks away if there wasn't any delay. So Massive really has 2 options here. They can either proceed with the delay to the global event and bring a more polished product 7 weeks from now, or Massive can not delay the global event, have the second global event running without a leaderboard, and also still have a more polished product in about 7 weeks from now with the third global event. Either way, the time frame that we can expect the leaderboards feature to be implemented into the game again, it would be 7 weeks. So what would the harm be to simply not delay the next global event and have it running without those leaderboards for the players that want to have stuff to do in the meantime? Just look at it like this. The players who want a quote-unquote more polished experience still have to wait around the same time for those leaderboards to drop. But for the players that want to dive into the new gear, the new accommodations, and have fun with the new modifiers, they aren't going to be left without new content for another 7 weeks. This way, we're also not delaying all the future gear sets coming out, because yes, if you delay one global event, you automatically also delay all the others. And you're doing all of that for just one leaderboard feature? I just can't think that that's the right choice. Now, Massive did mention on the state of the game as well that there is another alternative. They want to give players something to do in the meantime, so they propose that they can then just run the first global event again and have players play that until the leaderboards are fixed. And while that might work out for some players who didn't really have a chance to play during Outbreak last week, I still think that that's not going to be the same, especially with, and some people might hate me for saying this, but especially with Destiny 2 just around the corner. You can like the game or you can hate the game, but the truth is, it is going to pull players from the division, and I feel that we at least need something to pull those players back in after the initial hype is worn off. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see that Massive is taking the feedback so seriously. And again, I can respect the fact that they're willing to delay the content to polish it up more, but in this case, you're going to deliver the polished content in around 7 weeks from now anyway, delay or not. So do us all a favor and keep that content flowing. Give us those new gear sets, the new accommodations and the modifiers, and then for once, only this one time, I can look the other way when the leaderboards feature for the next global event is missing. Anyway, that's my take on the whole thing. I know a lot of people feel the same way. However, if you disagree with me, if you disagree with all of this, don't hold back. I may have a YouTube channel, doesn't mean I speak for everybody. You can find me on Twitter and probably in the comment section down below if you want to talk about it. Anyway, as always, I will see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.